that he never expected in his lifetime to ever see an African American elected as President of the United States. He did, by the way, want to meet Obama. So we decided to go to the inauguration, and Bill Nelson gave us VIP tickets. Well, that meant you either got to sit 2 blocks away in the freezing cold, or you got to sit in the Senate office building in a nice, cozy conference room and watch it on TV. So the morning of the inauguration, Stetson and I got on the bus. Now, my son lives off 8th Street, and if you know anything about Washington, D.C., that's where the riots burned the buildings down after Dr. King was assassinated. And so we got on the bus, a bus full of young African Americans, and then there's this old white guy, my son and me. And the bus was absolutely dead silent. And so
they didn't know who he was.
So Stetson climbed up to his feet, and he turned around to all these children and he said, "Did you think this day would ever come?" And the bus went up with laughter, and these young people were hugging Stetson as they were getting off the bus. But when we have an inauguration, there's a safety zone of 7 blocks around the mall that get blocked off, and the streets along those blocks are then lined with buses of people that come in. So that Stetson and I had to walk 7 or 8 blocks in the freezing cold. Well, he had on his Obama hat, and he had me take his picture, and I've seen the famous picture of Stetson in his Klan robe with his briefcase, attempting to enter the House Un-American Activities Committee to try to convince them that the Klan was an un-American activity that they ought to be doing something about. And of course he was arrested by the Capitol Police and very speedily taken away. So he said, "Sandra, I want you to reframe that picture." So I took a picture of him with the same view of the Capitol behind him, with his Obama hat on. And so we got inside, and I always tell this story. It was really precious to him. It was about 8 o'clock in the morning. The inauguration was not going to happen to noon, but if you were going to go, you had to go that early. We went into the Senate office building. There were no lights on. It was cold. The security people were there. And we walked down the hall, and the only door that was open was to John McCain's office. And the staffer inside heard us walking down the hall, and this voice ran out from inside. Would you like some coffee?" And so Stetson stuck his head in the door. He said, "I'd feel guilty taking your coffee because I didn't vote for Senator McCain." And the staffer said, "Senator McCain would want you to have this coffee on this cold morning." So we sat down in Senator McCain's office and watched the event the rest of the day on TV.
And I'll be done.
When we got back to Jacksonville, Jacksonville had just voted its first African American mayor. And we were invited to one of the parties for the inauguration of the mayor up at the Five Points Theater there in near Avondale. And Stetson got up and he said, "If there is anything more amazing to me than that this country would elect an African American president, it was this city, where my uncle once marched down the street in his Klan robe, and yet there would be such a change of heart in Jacksonville that Jacksonville would elect an African American its mayor." So that's as much
Yeah.
of the story as I can remember.
That's a good one.
His doctor told him not to go.
The doctor told him not
Yes.
to go.
Absolutely, you will die, Stetson, if you go.
Oh, I will
You've got
tell you.
pneumonia.
I will tell you the worst part of that. Stetson loved flea markets. And we had gone to a flea market down near Melbourne, way down there. And he didn't know it, but he had left his driver's license with his picture on it at one of the stalls in that flea market. So some years before, there is a store, or was a store, I guess it's still there, up in Georgia, in Waycross, that sold Klan stuff. And among the things that they did is that they had militia stuff. And there was this militia group that called itself, what was it, Terry? Something like it was the American Freedom Protectors, something like that. And they put a camouflage suit on Stetson, and he was now a member of this militia. He had signed up for this militia, and there he was in his militia camouflage outfit.
You love being undercover.
And that was the only card he had in his wallet. And the security in both Jacksonville and in Washington, D.C. for the inauguration of the President of the United States accepted a militia picture card as identification to get him on. That I didn't feel terribly secure after that.